He drove to Hollywood with $325 and a dream. But Brad Pitt's real journey began when he stopped chasing fame and started finding himself. Every once in a generation, there comes an artist who reminds us that success is not about how loud you rise, but how gracefully you grow. Brad Pitt's story is one of transformation. From a small-town dreamer with nothing but a beat-up car and a map to Hollywood, into a man who learned that real strength comes from facing your own shadows. Born in Shawnee, Oklahoma in 1963, and raised in Springfield, Missouri, William Bradley Pitt grew up in what he later described as Mark Twain country, a world of church on Sundays, football on Fridays, and simplicity every other day. His father ran a trucking company. His mother was a school counselor. Life was steady, safe, and predictable. But Brad always had a feeling that there was more. "I grew up on movies," he once said, "and they gave me a bigger horizon." He studied journalism and advertising at the University of Missouri. But 2 weeks before graduation, he packed his car, filled it with dreams, and drove to Los Angeles with $325 to his name. He didn't tell his parents at first. He just went. That drive, halfway across America, was more than a road trip. It was a declaration. He was ready to bet on himself. In LA, he lived on couches, took acting classes at night, and worked odd jobs during the day, chauffeuring strippers to parties, dressing as a giant chicken for an El Pollo Loco restaurant. "You do what you have to," he laughed later. But behind the humor was hunger, not just for fame, but for purpose. He studied relentlessly, absorbing everything about storytelling, expression, and emotion. He auditioned for small parts that barely paid, each one a brick toward something larger. His first break came in 1991 with a small role in Thelma and Louise. He was on screen for less than 10 minutes, but in those minutes, he made movie history. His performance was effortless, charming, magnetic. Overnight, Hollywood took notice, but Brad wasn't interested in being another pretty face. "It's dangerous when the world tells you you're perfect," he said years later. "You stop growing." Throughout the 1990s, he was offered roles that could have locked him into stardom's shallow end, but he refused to be typecast. Instead, he sought complexity. Films like Legends of the Fall, Seven, and Fight Club showed a man willing to bleed for authenticity. His characters weren't heroes, they were human, broken, messy, honest. That choice defined him. Fight Club especially became more than a film. It was a cultural movement. His portrayal of Tyler Durden, raw, rebellious, philosophical, embodied a generation's anger toward consumerism and conformity. But to Brad, it wasn't rebellion for rebellion's sake. Tyler, he said, was everything men think they want to be until they realize its destruction. That awareness marked a turning point in his career, from playing power to questioning it. But success didn't come without storms. As his fame exploded, so did public scrutiny. Every relationship, every rumor, every mistake became headlines. "You lose control of your own narrative," he said. "You become a character in someone else's story." That realization drove him inward. He started asking questions few people at his level dare to. Who am I without the work, without the noise, without the mask? He began to slow down, choosing projects with soul. Babel, The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, Moneyball, 12 Years a Slave. Each role reflected maturity, stories about time, empathy, and redemption. In Moneyball, he played Billy Bean, a man who redefines failure as progress. That film mirrored Brad's own life philosophy. Success is what you do when the odds are against you. Off-screen, his journey became even more human. He faced heartbreak, public divorce, and personal battles that forced him to strip away illusion. "I had to confront my weaknesses," he admitted. "You can't outrun pain. It will find you, and it will teach you." Those words came from hard-earned wisdom. In interviews, he spoke candidly about growth, emotional sobriety, self-awareness, fatherhood. "There's beauty in getting older," he said. "You finally start seeing the patterns you've been repeating, and you realize you can change them." That humility made him relatable in a way that fame never could. When asked what success means now, he said, "It's peace, it's time, it's being able to sit still and like who you're sitting with." That's the heart of Brad Pitt's story. The evolution from ambition to alignment, from fame to fulfillment. He still works tirelessly, but the purpose has shifted. Through his production company, Plan B, he's helped tell some of the most important stories of our time. 12 Years a Slave, Moonlight, The Big Short. Films that challenge minds instead of pleasing markets. He once said, "If your work isn't helping someone see differently, it's just noise." Brad Pitt's journey teaches us that reinvention is not betrayal, it's maturity. That strength isn't about control, but surrender. Surrendering ego, perfection, and the need to be understood. His smile may have built his career, but his introspection built his legacy. Because the truth is, the boy who left Missouri didn't just come to Hollywood to become famous. He came to understand life through art. And over decades, he's done just that, transforming pain into poetry, chaos into calm, and fame into faith. Not the religious kind, but the faith that says, tomorrow, I can still be better than I was today. When the noise finally faded, Brad Pitt found himself standing in something rarer than applause, silence. For years, he had filled every minute with motion. New roles, new headlines, new beginnings. But silence has its own voice. And in that stillness, he heard something deeper than fame. The question every artist eventually faces. Now that you've achieved everything you wanted, who are you without it? He admitted that the hardest work he ever did wasn't in front of a camera. It was inside his own heart. After decades of motion, he learned to sit still. Meditation, therapy, long walks with no destination. The man, once addicted to momentum, began to study peace as if it were a new craft. I used to think success was movement, he said quietly. Now I know success is alignment. When what you believe, what you say, and what you do finally match. Those years of reflection became the second act of his life, the part most people never see, but the part that makes everything else make sense. He poured his focus into growth that doesn't trend. Repairing relationships, learning humility, practicing gratitude like repetition. He stopped chasing closure and started practicing clarity. You don't get over pain, he said. You grow through it. That line captures the essence of maturity, a lesson that echoes far beyond Hollywood. In this new season, he began producing more than performing. He wanted to lift other voices, telling stories that matter even if they don't guarantee headlines. Through Plan B, he produced films that gave a platform to truth. 12 Years a Slave exposed the horror of history. Moonlight celebrated quiet courage. The Big Short revealed corruption hiding in plain sight. Each film was a mirror, asking society to look harder. Brad explained that producing made him feel useful. Acting expressed his own soul. Producing served others. You reach a point, he said, when helping someone else win feels better than winning again yourself. He also found himself drawn to architecture and design, physical acts of creation. He founded the Make It Right Foundation after Hurricane Katrina, building sustainable homes for displaced families in New Orleans. He studied blueprints, learned from architects, and sometimes picked up tools himself. To outsiders, it looked like philanthropy. To him, it was healing. You build houses, he said, because you're learning how to rebuild yourself. When asked about aging, he smiled and said, "It's the best thing that ever happened to me." He meant it. He learned to value presence over perfection, process over performance. You can't hold on to youth, he said. You can hold on to curiosity. That curiosity is why, even now, every project feels alive. He reads screenplays like a student, not a veteran. He listens to directors half his age, absorbing their rhythm. He's still learning how to be new at something every day. There's a quiet ritual he follows before each film. He writes one word on a slip of paper, a compass for the role. For Ad Astra, it was forgiveness. For Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, it was grace. He keeps those words in his wallet until filming ends. It's a reminder, he says, that every story, like every life, has one heartbeat driving it. That simple habit shows how deeply he's turned art into meditation, not escape, but exploration. When Once Upon a Time in Hollywood released in 2019, his portrayal of stuntman Cliff Booth felt effortless. Funny, calm, strong, centered. Audiences loved him because he wasn't performing confidence. He was living it. When he won the Oscar for that role, his speech was humble, reflective, even humorous. "I'm just trying to get my feet back on the ground," he said. But between the jokes was a truth. The man who once chased the world had finally found his center. The transformation was visible in every interview after that. Gone was the restless energy of youth. In its place stood a man who had learned to laugh at himself. "I'm finally comfortable in my own skin," he said. It only took 50 years. He spoke openly about therapy, calling it the best investment he ever made. "You think you're solving your problems," he said, "but really, you're discovering who you are beneath them." Fatherhood became his deepest classroom. He said that raising his children taught him patience and perspective. "You can't act your way through parenting," he laughed. "They see everything." The role of father humbled him more than fame ever could. "They don't care about awards," he said. "They care if you're present." That truth grounded him, a reminder that the most important moments are the ones no one sees. Even his friendships evolved. He began surrounding himself with people who valued honesty over hype. "I'm drawn to folks who aren't impressed by me," he said, "because they keep me real." He learned that solitude isn't loneliness when it's chosen with intention. He'd spend weekends in the desert, sketching, reading poetry, cooking for friends. Simple rituals became sacred ones. He described life now as a slow conversation with peace. When young artists ask how to survive Hollywood, his advice surprises them. He doesn't talk about agents or fame. He says, "Find silence, because that's where the truth talks." He tells them that ambition without awareness is just noise, and that discipline isn't punishment, it's protection. He urges them to take care of their minds as seriously as their resumes. "The industry can't give you identity," he says. "You have to bring your own." Brad's story resonates because it's not about a man who had everything. It's about a man who learned what everything actually means. He once told an interviewer, "You spend the first half of your life building a resume and the second half building a soul." That's the transformation, from actor to artist, from fame to fulfillment. He talks a lot about surrender now. "Control is an illusion," he said. "You can plan your day, not your destiny." That acceptance didn't make him passive. It made him peaceful. He calls it active surrender, the choice to trust the process while still giving your best effort. It's the same discipline that carried him from Missouri to the Oscars, now refined into wisdom. Work hard, then let go. Even his view on failure has changed. Every mistake was a teacher, he says. Pain shows you where you still need to grow. He no longer hides his flaws. He honors them as proof of evolution. When people mention past controversies, he nods, not defensive, but grateful. Those chapters taught me humility, he says. They showed me I'm human before I'm anything else. That kind of honesty is rare, but it's what makes his voice credible in an age addicted to perfection. When asked what keeps him motivated after 30 years, he said, I'm fascinated by people. Everyone's trying to heal from something. That empathy fuels his art. He chooses roles that explore redemption, resilience, and the messy beauty of being human. He believes stories heal because they remind us we're not alone. These days, his mornings start slow. Coffee, journaling, sunlight. He writes gratitude lists. 5 small things that make life rich. Gratitude changes your chemistry, he says. It rewires scarcity into sufficiency. He reads philosophy, Stoics, Rumi, Jung, and underlines lines that hit deep. He keeps a note on his mirror that says, let go, show up, be kind. Simple, but it guides everything. He often tells students, don't mistake motion for meaning. He explains that endless hustle without intention leads to burnout, not brilliance. You have to leave space, he says, for grace to enter. That sentence captures his evolution from achiever to aware. When he looks back at that kid driving to LA with 325, he smiles. He was fearless, he says. He didn't know how hard it would be, and that's what saved him. He doesn't romanticize the struggle. He honors it. Every rejection, every heartbreak, every lonely night shaped his character. Nothing was wasted, he insists. Even the pain was practice. At 60, Brad Pitt has become something rare in an age of noise, quietly powerful. He doesn't chase validation anymore. He cultivates meaning. His success isn't loud, it's steady. He defines maturity as learning to stay calm in chaos. And that calmness, that centered presence, is what makes his story so deeply human. He once said, we're all trying to get home. Home isn't a place, he explains. It's a feeling, peace with who you are. And after decades of searching through characters, he finally found it in himself. His message to dreamers is simple. Don't rush your evolution. Everything beautiful takes time, he says. Trees, art, healing, becoming. He reminds us that it's okay to start over, to admit you were wrong, to forgive yourself for the person you had to be when you didn't know better. The goal isn't perfection, he says. It's progress. Quiet, patient, honest progress. Brad Pitt's life shows that reinvention is not betrayal. It's bravery. The growth doesn't always look glamorous. Sometimes it looks like stillness, therapy, forgiveness, or simply breathing through another hard day. He teaches us that you don't have to choose between strength and softness. You can be both. That masculinity is not about dominance, but about depth. That peace is not found at the top of the mountain, but on the climb itself. So, when life knocks you down, or the spotlight moves on, remember his words. You can rebuild. You can begin again. You can turn pain into purpose. Because success isn't what the world calls you, it's what your heart whispers when the world is quiet. And if you ever doubt your path, think of that young man from Missouri who drove into the unknown with nothing but faith, who fell, rose, learned, and kept walking, brick by brick, truth by truth, until he built not just a career, but a character worth admiring. Because the real achievement of Brad Pitt isn't the fame, the fortune, or even the films. It's the courage to evolve in public, the humility to admit he's still learning, and the grace to keep going. That's the kind of success that doesn't fade.